Hello. Today's topic is death. I talked about death once before in my video, What is Death?, which I made way back in 2013. And it's probably been viewed as many times as all my other videos put together. I haven't actually done the arithmetic, but it's close. And in that video, I said that death was a paradox because it wasn't so much a question of why should you fear death, but rather how you should conceive it, what death is. That's what I wanted to find out. And after these few years have passed, I still don't know what death is. But I am almost certainly closer to death than I was back then. And it's a question that keeps recurring. What to think about it, how to act towards it. The chapter title, Stretch That Skullskin, is actually taken from Jack Kerouac, which I'll give you the quote when I read out the chapter. But he was thinking about, long ago, Emperor Marcus Aurelius, a famous Stoic philosopher, who said, when death smiles at you, you smile back. And I've always wondered what exactly he meant. Did he mean it as a kind of act of bravado? Did he mean it as acknowledgement of fatalism, because everyone dies? Did he mean it in the sense of, I know something that you don't? You know, virtue can never die, even if men die, women die. You know, virtue, the forms, the eternal realities don't die. So death cannot conquer them. Is that what he meant? If you have an idea, maybe you can make a comment and I will respond. Anyway, so in this chapter, I just return to the topic. I knock it around a bit. I can't say really that I say anything definitive about it, although I do make a connection between the death of people and the death of a book, which I will explain when I read out the chapter. Not a lot more to say, really. I'll just pose the paradox, because there'll be plenty of you who haven't come across this before. But the paradox is this: either you die at every moment because there's absolutely no logical guarantee that you have existed for more than a second or 2 seconds or something. If you were to be annihilated and a perfect copy of you were to be put in your place, you wouldn't know. I mean, you could literally meet your doppelganger, who was actually the real you. And you would wonder, well, how did I come to be a copy of me? And the answer is, there's no such thing as personal identity. That's a view which David Hume argued for originally. You die at every moment. But there's another view of death, which I find equally gripping, which is that if we just accept that you exist for as long as you seem to exist, then you can never die, because death means being dead forever, and forever implies infinity, and infinity is a concept that human beings cannot even comprehend, not properly. So it doesn't matter if you're dead for eons. It doesn't matter if you're dead for the whole lifespan of the universe, because there could always be another universe, as Nietzsche thought, eternal recurrence or whatever. There's always the possibility of waking up. And when you oscillate between two extreme positions like this, it's a sign that something very basic has not been understood, has not been grasped. And I acknowledge that as a fact. I really don't grasp death. And I would say that, yes, it is part of the question. What is it? What does it mean to say that I exist, is the question. How could I How could I exist rather than a perfect copy of me? What would be the difference? And what would it mean for me to cease to exist? It's the same thing, two sides of the same coin. Okay, so we'll read the chapter. See if any other thoughts occur. The other day I posted my 1994 book, Naive Metaphysics, A Theory of Subjective and Objective Worlds, to a contact, Cliff, in the USA, who'd requested a signed copy. By sheer coincidence, the very next day a copy of the same book arrived in the post. I'd ordered my own book on Amazon from a USA bookseller because they were selling it cheaply, even less than the Kindle ebook version. The inside front cover is stamped, the Ellen Clark Bertrand Library, Bucknell University, Lewisburg, Pennsylvania. On the back flyleaf, the date due sheet has just one date, May the 22nd, 1995. That's just 5 months after the book was first published. My book remained on the shelf, unborrowed, for over 20 years before the library withdrew it from circulation and it ended up in the hands of an Amazon bookseller. The phrase author's vanity had been going round and round my head as I thought about the author's inscription that Cliff had requested. Things don't end well. All you do is head straight for the grave. Skin covers the skull a while. Stretch that skull skin and smile. Jack Kerouac, Visions of Cody, quoted in my 1993 talk, Is It Rational to Fear Death? Books have a life and death too. Hume's often quoted comment about his belatedly recognized magnum opus, Treatise of Human Nature, was that it fell stillborn from the press. I can sympathize up to a point. Hume subsequently enjoyed considerable fame as a British man of letters. Well, he was in fact Scottish, but he was appropriated certainly by the English. So things didn't work out too badly for him in his later years. On his deathbed, Hume remained true to his atheist beliefs, to the chagrin of those who had hoped he would make a last-minute confession. My book was killed by a mean-spirited, uncomprehending review in the Times Higher Education supplement. One sentence stands out. Klempner is to be admired for seeing the worth of system building, but the opacity and interminability of his text subvert the effort required to make even minimal sense of it. As a colleague remarked later, I should hold that up as my badge of pride, and I do. Well, I know one person who is almost certainly not going to read this book. Tant pis. Too bad. In a 2013 talk which I gave at the memorial meeting for D.W. Hamlin, one-time editor of Mind who had encouraged and supported my efforts to publish my first book, I said that the quoted statement was worthy of the customary bowl of soup tipped over the reviewer's head should we ever chance to meet at some dinner party. I look forward to that meeting. Would I write a book like Naive Metaphysics now? Never. No way. I simply don't have the patience to write a chapter that takes more than 5 or 6 minutes to read out aloud. Life is too short. When I think about death, I imagine my life as a tape in a tape machine. I don't know how much tape there is left. Each day follows the next, and the next. You go to sleep, get up, go to sleep, get up. And then, with or without warning, the tape runs out. The tape could run out tomorrow. It could run out in the very next minute as I keel over from a fatal heart attack. I'm older by several years than 2 uncles who died that way. Death is a paradox, as I've already remarked. It is both true and false that the I dies with every passing moment. It is both false and true that I can never die because there is no time period sufficiently long that the possibility of waking up is absolutely ruled out. I wrote about repetition in Philosophizer, in the chapter Everyday Life. I remember when I was writing the first draft of that chapter, it seemed to be going somewhere. I had an idea about the form of human life, governed by endless repeated patterns. Then what? What follows from that? I didn't know, and still don't. There's no punchline. Maybe the point is that repetition is such a pervasive feature of human life that we simply don't even notice its pervasiveness. Well, I mean, making these videos has been an exercise in repetition every 3 days. How many days have I lived? I'd have to do a maths calculation. It would be perfectly possible to lay out every single day of your life on a wall, a living room wall, say. The squares would be pretty small, but not that small. Imagine the events of the day written in tiny writing on each square, and you, with your magnifying glass, patiently working along the line of the grid. And now imagine if you could see your life, every day of your life, permanently laid out inside your own mind. From the day you were born to the present, all day, every day. It could drive you mad. Human forgetfulness is a blessing. Why do I care? Or more to the point, what do I care about? My death? Future time after I'm gone? My present situation is comfortable enough. The nagging tug of boredom during the overlong periods when I don't have something useful to do, I can deal with that. Boredom is not so painful after all. Some human beings live lives of uninterrupted pain and misery, with no respite right up to the very end. That's something I thought about. Supposing you will live the life of every human being who has ever lived or will ever live. All the good, all the bad, all the unspeakably terrible. I'd rather have oblivion. Nothing. The soothing calm of nothingness. A black, placid lake, undisturbed by ripples. It's just a mental picture, after all. A person's entire life is just a succession of such mental pictures, ways of seeing, a comic book narrative, in tasteful shades of grey, as I wrote in Hedgehog Philosopher. The reality and the picture don't need to match up. They don't need to be an approximate fit. Why care about the truth? Isn't that the question? The way of is leads nowhere, or rather, it leads to necessary being, a dead end. The other way is not the way of seems. Seems is just the bastard offspring of is. I'm talking about something else entirely, the affective rather than the cognitive. A sophist would understand. That's what the ancient Greek sophists were about, wasn't it? Persig is good on this. The affective. What moves you? We cannot, even for a moment, escape being moved, even when we are standing still. Can there be a choice between alternate movers? Not on the basis of is. Facts lead only to other facts. I don't need reasons. I don't need facts. All I ask is to be moved. When people ask about or ponder the meaning of life, they're looking for some kind of a fact or some kind of a reason. They are looking for an explanation of why they are here, what they are doing, why they are doing it, what they should be doing. And I will just sweep all that away, because it's just nonsense. Because it's just an invitation to give some family story. That's what all religion is about. And a lot of philosophy as well. The way of is leads nowhere. All that there is the fact that there are things I want to do. And one of the things I want to do is think about this question. I mean, if I didn't want to think about it, well, that would be great. I don't have to. There are other things I could do. But there has to be something that you want. That's the whole point. That's the only possible solution to the meaning of life problem. There's got to be something you want. And as I'm later going to argue in the final chapter of this book, this isn't about hoping for something in the future. This is about actually being after something, doing something now, engaging in an activity that means something to you. Death can't take that away. Death can take away future goods, future enjoyments, but they aren't the things that make life worth living anyway. Only the present is what matters. Just as I'm making this video now. And right now that's the only thing that matters to me. And hopefully I won't keel over before the end of this, because it's only a few seconds to go. And I hope you don't either, obviously. Well, we've got over 3/4 of the way through my book. Only another, 7 chapters to do? Quick maths calculation. Yeah, I think something like that. So I hope you stay with me. And till next time, bye.